style guides and UX flows and creating wireframes. So apart from that, we started off with some Figma practicals as well. So I think you went through the Figma layout and have an idea about how to do basic things in Figma. So I will, after the break, I will give you more introduction, more details about Figma, and we are going to create some actual layouts using Figma application today. So let's start off with the dark mode. Gradients are already done. Then, all right. So, what exactly is a dark mode first? A dark mode is a night-friendly color theme that mainly focuses on using dimmed gray colors for surface and UI elements. Darker colors reflect less light while still providing a great reading experience. As a design pattern, a dark mode is usually living across user interface as a toggle. The dark mode is designed to be supplemental to the system's default or light theme. So if you take any device, even in your laptops or even in your mobile device, you have this light and dark mode. So if you keep it as auto, in the daytime, it will show you your applications or the UI in light mode. And at night, it will automatically change it to the dark mode. So if you prefer dark mode throughout the day, you can switch on dark mode whenever you want. And when we do designs, actually, as I mentioned last week as well, we don't start off with the dark mode. We first design the light mode design because we have to, uh, in light mode, we can design in a white color background. So it will give us more independence to be creative. So if you take a dark mode design, most of the time we don't create the dark mode for the first time. So after we create the light mode design with the white color background and all, then only we are changing it and changing the colors to dark mode first. So dark mode is actually, it has few benefits as well. So especially when you try to read something, not in the daytime, especially in the dark and nighttime with the low light, it will help you to read better. Like it will increase the readability, and you can also keep your eye on the screen for longer hours. So it won't give you any eye strains. So it has health benefits as well. So on the device side, it actually saves the battery life of the device as well. So when we take a white color screen, the digital bits of the screens has to light up. All the lights has to light up the pixels. And when you put a dark mode theme, some of the lights, so especially if it is a full dark background, though they don't have to light up. So it saves the energy consumption of your screens as well. So that is the benefit of having a dark mode. Dark theme is a good marketing move for making your UI stand out among similar brands or products. The deep, heavy backgrounds can become a perfect addition to your brand visuals. So if I take a actual example, when Spotify launched their mobile streaming, music streaming platform, the Apple Music was the dominant competitor during that time. So when Spotify launched their application, they even from the beginning, they launched it in a dark mode. They had a black color background with the green color accent. So people liked the UI as well, and they had a really good streaming service and so many music brands in their product. But one of their number one selling points were their UI. So they had a better UI when comparing to their competitors such as Apple Music or any other music streaming services when they launch. Dark mode as a feature can help reduce eye strain when operating your product. Especially if your product is heavy with text, a dark mode can help enhance your users' retention and focus. So if your website or if your application is text-rich application where you want your users to read content, uh, it, it is a good idea to implement dark mode as well. So if I take a device such as Amazon Kindle, where you can read books online, they also have light and dark mode. So during the daytime, you can use the light mode, and in the night time, when there's not that much of light around, you can use the dark mode. So it will give you more readability and it will help you to reduce your eye strains. Because if you look into light screen at the night time for longer hours, it will give you eye strains and it will affect your sleeping habits as well. So having a dark color or a dark mode on device will help you with reducing the eye strains as well. And if you read content, let's say ebook or something, if you have Amazon Kindle or Amazon Kindle app in your phone, it will help you to focus and also come back to these applications and read as a habit, because it won't give you a bad user experience. Dark mode can potentially save your phone energy. So as I mentioned, when you switch on the dark mode, the most of the lights in the screen don't have to light up the pixels. So you know that where our screens consist of several pixels. So every pixel has to light up. So you can see this. I don't know if you can see my screen. So if I zoom all the way in an image or something, it will show pixels. So like that in our screens also, it is a connection of uh, lights, actually LED lights. So when you have a white color screen, all of these pixels have to light up, but in a dark color, all of them don't have to. If you have a foreground text in white color, or if you have some elements here and there, only those parts will have to fully light up. So that will save the energy consumption of your device as well, save phone energy. Dark mode consumes 6 times less power on your screen by emitting less light, and as a result, can prolong your app lifespan and usage time. So, as I mentioned, it increases your battery life of your phones as well. And it is also healthy to read against dark surfaces, especially during night time. All right. Plan your color use. Avoid or limit white or pure black colors. You can use pure black as a background for dark mode. So when you designing for dark mode, most of the time when you do designs, as I mentioned, you have to start off with a light mode. So you have to send them two versions, one for the light mode, one for the dark mode. So if you even go to websites like Tailwind, they also have light mode and dark mode, and they have different color schemes and different media queries for light mode devices and dark mode devices. So we can apply the same thing in our websites as well. So if I go to this particular website with dark mode on my device, it will show up like this. So if I switch on the light mode, the website color will change to light mode. So you can apply the same things in your websites or in your designs as well when you do front-end coding. But as a designer, UX designer or a UI designer, you have to make sure you give both a light mode and dark mode to your developers when they try to develop. So in that way, they don't have to think about the color combinations or anything. And you have a good idea about your users and how they can uh, interact with your project or the product. So you can design your light mode and dark mode based on your end user requirements. All right. So in this example, they are using background color as black color, and the text color is complete white. So we don't have to use complete white because it will use some energy from your phone, because full white color text, the hex code it has hash FFF is full white color, and the background color hash O is the black color. So if I show you an example, if I put a rectangle right here and change the fill color to hash FFF, it is complete white color. And if I change it to 000, it is black color. So that is black and white hex codes you can use in your designs. But we can avoid using complete white color, 100% white on our foreground text. So we can use some color similar to this, like some gray color, more into white, but a gray color. So it will reduce the energy and it will improve the readability of your designs as well, because people can differentiate between the heading and all. Give me 1 second. All right. Brand your dark color. To make your dark mode more unique, use a much darker version of your primary brand color as the surface color. So in this example right here, you can use, if your main color, primary color is blue color, you can use the darker version of that blue color, more into black color as your background color. So it will help you with your branding as well. So you don't have to use the complete black. You can use something similar in your brand color. So if your branding color is green color, you can use something uh, into green as well. So let's say for an example, something like this color as your background color. So if it is blue color, you can use something similar to this. So it will give you, uh, it will help you to use your branding color in your backgrounds as well. Reduce color saturation. Avoid fully saturated colors in dark mode. So in this example right here, if I zoom in, you can see these colors, the blue color and the green color is saturated. Saturated means you can't see the boundaries. So the button boundary is not that clear. So this is actually, the image quality is pretty low as well. But if you choose this color, the saturated colors, it won't show up nicely. And in here, if I compare these two, these have clear boundaries. So users can differentiate between different elements if you use low saturated colors. So these are fully saturated colors. We should avoid use them in our UIs. So it will give bad user experience and maybe eye strains for your users as well. Alright. In order to communicate depth in dark mode, you can use a scale of lighter colors to translate the elevation. Avoid using shadows in dark mode. So if you use shadows in dark mode, it won't show up because most of the time our backgrounds are in black or darker color. So the shadows won't work. So in that case, what you can do is you can use this kind of a border, a lighter border. So your background color is darker and the border color should be little lighter, so users can differentiate the boundary of your particular element. So if you want higher elevation in your designs, you can use much lighter colors as your border color. If you want lower elevation, you can use colors with colors more similar to your background. So that is what you can do to communicate depth in dark. All right, next one, ensure your dark mode contrast. Dark mode, just as the light, should meet the minimum required WCAG standards to ensure all text is legible with enough contrast. You can use plugins to check your contrast design in right place. So we talk about the readability and the accessibility of text. So WCAG is a European governing body who is providing with these kind of recommendations for your text and the contrast ratios and the accessibility guidelines for design. So you have to make sure uh, only your light mode design should have these requirements met, but also your dark mode designs, you have to check with by installing Figma plugins, and there are some websites you can upload your designs and check the design. So you have to make sure you follow these standards in both light mode and dark mode, because if your designs are not that contrasting and hard to read, and if their colors are not matching, it won't be a good user experience. So you have to make sure to follow these design recommendations as well. All right. Design light mode first. While bringing your designs from light to dark mode, keep all the visual cues in place. Don't ignore or remove some colors for the sake of dark theme, not to confuse users. So as I mentioned earlier, you should start off with the light mode, and after you complete the design in your light mode design, you can move on and create the dark mode. So in that way, you have a good idea. You have your creative freedom to experiment with different colors, because in the dark mode, you can't use all the colors, but in the white color background, you can experiment with different colors and find the best combination for your color theme as well. And when you bring in your design to dark mode, you can do some changes to the tints or the, uh, let's say, strong colors is preferred in dark mode. So you can change some colors to match your design. So don't start off with the dark mode, start off with the light mode, and do changes accordingly if you really need dark mode, the color changes in your dark mode. So these are some plugins that you can use in order to create a dark mode design in Figma. Uh, right now, I'm going to create a dark mode design without using any plugin, so it will be easier for you to understand. So let's start off with uh, mobile design. So this one, I'm going to create the light mode first. All right. So this is my light mode design. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a header. Let's say welcome is my header. I'm going to put it inside a frame and give the frame a different color. Let's say something similar to white. Header. Select colors from tailwind, so it will be easier. All right, this is my background color for the header. Right. Now I want it to be spread across my device. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select that particular element and drag it to 2 corners. Say it should be 90, and I want 2 icons here as well. So just if I want icons, what I can do is I can go to plugins and go to manage plugins, and if you search for plugin called material design, that is one place that you can get all the Google icons. So material design icons are something like this. So you can use all these icons in your Figma design. So there are some other services as well, but Google is most reliable. So I'm using Google icons in my design. So what you have to do is you have to click on this particular design and click on the run button. So I already have material symbols installed. So I'm opening that. So it will show up all the icons I have in my design. So let's add 2 icons here. First, I need a back icon. this one, and then I require, let's say, more like this one. Okay, now I have two icons. So I'm going to place this icon on my navigation bar right here, and this one right here. All right. Now I want these icons to move all the way to the right. This one should move all the way to the left, and this one should move all the way to the right. So I will reduce the font size as well to 20. In order to do that, what I have to do is I have to select the frame I created, this header frame, and I have my arrow, welcome text, and more text, more icon inside that. Select the main division or the frame and go in here, and you can see there's an option called horizontal gap between objects. So right now it is 10 pixels. So you can see with the purple color rectangles, it is showing the gap between elements. Right now it is 10 pixels. So I will make it auto. So it will make it like this. So it will spread across the device or the element it already in, and it will give you this kind of a layout. So right now it don't have any padding. So this is too closer to the edge, and even this one. So let's add some horizontal padding. So you can add horizontal padding by clicking on this one. So I will give it a 30. And even vertical padding, I need to be something around 50. So let's set it as 50. Okay, so this is my header for light mode. And let's create some text as well. I'm going to create an image and a description for my background. So inside my frame, I'm creating this one. So I have the header right here and the frame here. So if I drag the frame, let's change the background color of that so you can see it better. To tailwind. This one. This is the background color of my application body elements. So this is the header, this is the body part. So now let's create an image or a card. So inside that particular one, let's rename it to body first. I'm going to create another card inside that. Say card. This is the card, and I'm going to give it a fill color of white. All right. I'm going to give this one. If you click right here, it will create a auto layout. Auto layout means it will be responsive. So we need it to be responsive because I will change the size of this card right here in the middle. So I want it to uh, take the size of that particular card. So that is why I'm giving it a auto layout, and it should be responsive. So right now I have padding of 51, 60, 89 and so on. So I don't want it to be like that. I want it to be uniform. So I'm giving it 30 and even horizontal 30 and the vertical also 30. And the card inside, I'm giving it also auto layout and select fill container. And even horizontally, I select fill container. So the card will look like this. So if you can see, let's create a different darker version of this background. 100. Okay, you can clearly see it has a uniform padding from left hand side, right hand side, even on top and the bottom. It has 30 pixels as padding. So right in the sticker, what I want to do now is I want to create some border radius, add some border radius. So I'm going to go in here under the appearance. We have option called corner radius. So change it to some value, maybe 15. Yes, so 15 will be enough for my design. So I'm going to change it to 50. So my design or the card will look like this. So inside the card, I need an image. So in order to do that, I select my card from left-hand side, layers pane, and create another frame inside that. So this is the frame I'm going to create inside that. Go on Google and search for an image. Let's search for a landscape image. Maybe this one. Copy image and select your frame, and you can paste it. Control plus V. So I'm going to press Ctrl plus V, so it will paste inside that particular element I created. So you can resize it by press on your shift key on your keyboard and drag from one of these corners. So it will change the size of it, and it will maintain the same aspect ratio that you have in your image as well. So this is my image. So you can see it is not uniformly spreaded out inside my card. So in order to make it more uniform, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to rename this to image and then give it auto layout. So auto layout will make it a more uniform automatically without, I don't have to worry creating it manually. So auto layout is a good option if you want to create responsive and more consistent layout. So let's give this some padding as well. Maybe 15 pixels is too much. 7.5. Okay, something like this. So now I have an image, and now I want some text or a paragraph right here. So let's go and look for some paragraphs. So this is the website that we are using to get dummy text in our design, the Lorem Ipsum website. So go in here and then generate some text. I'm going to copy this top part and create a paragraph right here in my design by selecting this text tool, and you can draw the area that you want your text to be. So I want my text to be in this particular area, and then paste your text. So I don't want it to be in bold mode, and the size also, I want it to be 14 pixels is enough. So this is my design. So if I want it to be inside another frame, let's say, what I can do is select your text and select frame selection. And maybe I can rename it as content. Add some padding to that. 30 pixels horizontally, 30 pixels vertically. Fill content. Fill content. All right. Here's my design. Okay, let's say this is my white mode design, a very basic design element I have created. Now I want to create the dark mode design without using any plugin. So what I can do is I can copy the same thing and duplicate it. In Figma, we have a command called Control plus D to duplicate. So I'm going to press on Control plus D and rename it as dark mode. Sorry. And then I have these designs right here. Then I will change the colors of these to match my design. Let's say I want my background color to be, so this color. So changing my background color to that particular color. And then the header color, something darker, is 900. And the text color, I want it to be some lighter color, maybe 200. What color? The text color, this icon should have the same color. Okay, the top part and the background is done. Now I want to change the color of this particular card I have created. So I want it to stand out from the background. So let's add some border like effect, drop shadow to this one. So you can see the drop shadow. If I remove the drop shadow, it won't. Right here. So if I remove the drop shadow, it will look like this. So you can add a drop shadow by going to effect and click on this plus icon right here, and it will give you drop shadow option. So you can change the drop shadow direction, the X position, Y position, the blur, everything. So if I change X axis to 10, it will spread through the X axis. So I don't want it to be like that. The Y axis, I want it to be spreaded 5 pixels. So you can see it is going through Y axis, the vertical axis. And blur, we can change the blur value to whatever the value we want. I will keep it at 10. And the spread, we can use the value such as 100 or 1 or whatever. So I will keep it 0. And you can change the color as well. So if you prefer any other color than black color, you can select whatever the color that you like as your box shadow color. So I will keep it as black, and I want opacity to be 25%. So otherwise it won't look nice. So that is my light mode. So as I mentioned in the presentation, we don't use board those kind of a box shadows in our dark mode design. So what we can do is we can give border like border color like this. It will communicate depth. So let's add some border color to our design. First, let's give it a different background color and a text color. So the background color I'm going to give it is this one, the card. Or we can use this color we already selected. Let's use that one. And the text color should be similar to this one. So this is my light mode design and this is my dark mode design. So let's add a border to this particular card so it communicates some depth. So for the border color, I'm going to select something lighter than the background color. So let's go with this 600. When you click on that particular button, the hex code, the 47, that code is copying to your computer's clipboard. So you can easily go in here and paste it by selecting Ctrl+V. So I'm going to add a stroke or a border. The border color is this one. And maybe give it a, okay. You can see I have a one white color one, the light mode one with the box shadow, and I created a dark mode one with a border, a stroke or the border. So let's say these are my light mode and dark mode design. So in Figma, what you can do is you can create a component by using light mode and dark mode. So the component creation, I'm going to go through it in more detail in the Figma practical session, but let's create a component by using these two elements. So let's say this is my header for design. I'm going to select those two, and then we have option called create component set. So in here, if I go in here, we have create component set option. So I'm going to click on that create component set. So it will create me a component like this. So it will show properties and everything on your right hand side. So this is my header, and it has two variants. So the number one variant is the light mode. Number two variant is the dark mode. So I'm going to change this to state, and default. And I want to add another variable right here. It should be a Boolean variable. Boolean is actually true or false. So if you want to switch on your light mode, you can say a dark mode false. If you want to switch on your switch off your dark mode, let's say for an example, you have light mode and dark mode. So if light mode is on, dark mode is off. If dark mode is on, light mode is off. So what I can do is I can create a Boolean variable right here and name it as dark mode. The first value I want is false because in the light mode, dark mode is not on. So I'm going to create it as false by default. So create property. So the first one in here, you have dark mode false. Let's create. So created the property, then state is light and this one state should be dark. All right. Now if I go to my assets section, I have the components that I have created. So let's say I have this header. So if I paste it right here, so if after you create an asset, so I'm going to go through it in more detail. So it will display right here. Creating assets or components will help you to use it in your design. So we can create reusable components that you can use in your designs by creating these assets. So it will show up in this asset section in your designs. And after you creating that, you can change between light and dark mode to make sure it is working. So if I do it more clearly, so I'm going to undo this. So let's say these are my light mode and dark mode versions. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select both of these and then go in here and then click on create component set. say create multiple components. And then we have an option here called combine adds variants. So I'm going to click on that as, okay, this is my, I'm going to call it home page. The home component is this. And then it has a property called mode. And it has dark mode and light mode. And then I have created an asset as well. I'm going to create another property called dark mode. The first one is false. The second one is true. So this one. Okay, now if I paste this right here, I have two options. If I switch on light mode, it will show the light mode. If I switch on the dark mode, it will show off the dark mode. So you can add the toggle button as well. But in order to do that, you have to create different elements. So right now I'm using it in my whole layout. So you can create different header, different sticker background, or a card background, or a navigation bar, anything, and use it in your design. But in order to show it to you faster, I created the whole design and made it toggle between light and dark mode when I select the modes from here. So that is one way you can do it. There's another way that you can do the same thing. In here, we have light mode and dark mode inside this one. So let's say I double click on this particular component I already created. So you can code, you can add some true or false variants in here. So let's say I add dark mode is true for the darker version. And for this one, I'm going to add dark mode false. And I'm going to remove the first argument in our design. So this one and even this one. All right. So if I paste my design right here, let's say this is my design. Okay. Go to the asset section and paste it right here. And you have a toggle button. So this is dark mode switched off. And if I switch on the dark mode, it will show in the dark mode. So that is how you can create a Figma dark and light mode versions in your design. So we will create more designs so you will get a better idea and you can yourself create a design when in the classroom. So if there's anything wrong, I can guide you as well. All right. One. Okay, in this example right here, you can see they have different versions for light mode and dark mode. The color selection for the light mode, the background color for the header, they have selected light 900, whereas for the background color of the header in the dark mode, the color is this. So you always have to make sure you select a background, the main background color, which is right here and this one, in a more darker shade. In that way, you can communicate depth and you can add elements on it. So your like uppermost colors should be lighter and the colors in the background should be darker. So that is the thing that you have to get from this kind of a layout. And you have to choose your light and dark mode colors before you start off with the designing or the creating the branding guideline or create the visual designs. You have to decide and you can search on websites like Dribble. So yeah, Dribble. And let's say I want to search for dark mode. They have different versions. So what you can do is if you like this color combination, you can copy this one, copy image and bring it to your artboard. and use this color scheme in your design. So how you can do that is you can select whatever the uh, like frame that you want this color to be and select their background color, and it will change the color to your new design color. So that is how you can use colors that people already created in designs in your designs, in your colors. All right. Use base colors to design dark mode. To make it predictable, turning your light themed UI to dark side, use a set of base or neutral colors with the same transparency values from the very start of your project. So you have to select your base light and base dark colors when you start off with the design. So after you do some designs, if you try to select colors, it won't be a good practice. So always make sure to select. Now, let's say you select this white color as your main color for the background, and you have to select the color for your dark mode as well. So your background color is white for the light mode, and your background color is in this particular color for the dark mode, and 80% of this color for some other element, and you can create 80% of this color as well. So they have selected uh, pure white color, triple F, for your light mode design, and whereas this 1A Xcode for their background color or the elements color in their dark mode design. So you also have to make sure you use and select a basic, a dominant color before you move on with the design process. Don't overuse dark mode. If you are making a product for Mac or Windows users, it is a good to adapt your product theme to sync with users' current theme automatically. This can help users to feel at home, making a great first impression. So I showed you already. So if I prefer light mode, if I prefer light mode, I can select light mode and use it in any application that I use. It will give me the application in the light mode. But if I prefer dark mode, or if I prefer auto, so that means light mode during the daytime and dark mode during the night time. So let's say one person is preferred dark mode, so his phone and his computer and everything is in dark mode. But if they try to load your website, if it is in the light mode design, so that is not a good user experience for that user. So you have to make sure to take users default device settings and change the theme automatically in order to give them a good first impression and a better user experience. So I showed you an example. In media queries, you can change the light and dark mode. If you're using frameworks such as Tailwind or even Bootstrap, you can add media queries and change between light and dark modes based on the selection that they have in their uh, device. All right. Okay. These are some useful resources. I will add them in our Google Classroom as well. Material design, it is actually the Google's UI design. So you can read through and understand why using dark mode is important, what it will do, and how you can uh, follow their guidelines and create better user experience by using this dark mode. If you go to Dribble and search for the word dark UI, it will give you some dark UI inspirations that you can use in your designs as well. Figma tokens, it is a plugin that you can use. So right now I showed you how to create dark mode or light mode versions without using a plugin. But if you use Figma tokens, you can, if you give it the colors that you selected right here, like this color combinations, it will create dark mode for you. So you don't have to create it your own. Contrast, a plugin to help check the contrast ratio of background and foreground elements. So you have to make sure you check the contrast ratio, even if it is a dark mode or a light mode. Make sure to check the contrast ratio of your designs as well. All right, that is all about the dark mode. Do you have any questions so far? All right, let's move on. Now we are going to discuss about typography. In addition to color theory or the color combination of your design, everything, typography is also a really important aspect of user experience design, because by selecting a good typography, you can convey the message that you can give to your users in a right tone. For an example, if I take a banking application, you might have to select some professional typography, because most of the people, the target users in your design, in your application, are in a professional professional background they have. And if you design an application for students or the school students or the anyone who is interested in studying, you might have to create some readable font, because there might be so many text content. So users, the main thing in your application is to give them better readability. So in that case, you have to select a good readable font or the typography for your designs. Typography is a design discipline that involves the use of typefaces and organization of those typefaces to create readable, usable, and ideally user-friendly interfaces or experiences. Typeface, also known as a font family, the word typeface comes from a physical print and refers to the faces of physical letter blocks. A typeface is composed of fonts. So typography, if you follow the lecture that Steve Jobs given at the Stanford, he mentioned how he learned about typography, different typefaces, and how he applied these things that he learned in designing of the first Macintosh computer. And you know, when during that time, the Windows was also launching an application, but when comparing to any other devices during that time, Apple had good typography even from the beginning. So always have to make sure, you always have to make sure you have a good typographic combination in your design, which will give your users better user experience as well. So these are some basic typography that we have in our devices. Even if you use Windows computer or any tablet or even an Apple computer or a tablet, whatever, you already have experience with these typefaces. These are some widely used typefaces in the industry. All right. So number one source that you can gather fonts from is the Google font. So if you go to Google Fonts, it has this kind of a font variants. So in here, we are sorting by trending. So most popular font and the trending font is Roboto and Open Sans, Noto Sans. And there are so many readable fonts that you can use in your designs. You can combine or the sort by new or trending or whatever you prefer. And then you can filter them out as well. You can type something here and find out how your text will look like in this particular typeface. The Roboto will look like this, and the Opins will look like this, Lato, Inter. So these are the widely used fonts. And increase the size maybe, and select the language. And if you need color text, it has a variant as well. And variable text means the text is not that unique. So there will be so many variables. You can see this one has 3 variables. This one have 1 variable, and so on. There are 3 basic type stroke differences in Google fonts. So number 1 is serif. Serif font is look like this. So you can use it for your heading, so anything in your design, so it will get a user's attention to that particular area. But in a readability wise, it is not that good. The slab serif is also look like this. You can use it to create logos or the print design or the graphics or something like that. But in the web industry or the UI, we mostly use sans serif because it is readable and you can easily implement in your design. So it will enhance the design aesthetics as well as it will give better readability for the users as well. So, and also they are classifying text by display text. So these are the display text, handwriting text, monospace. If you're designing a website for coders, if you want to display a coding tutorial or something like that, you can use this kind of a text because it is coming from coding or something related to coding. So that particular case, you can use this monospace text, not text content. You can use it to create barcodes or any symbols or whatever you like. So mostly this is the combination that you require, sans serif and a display font. Sans serif is the combination that we require to do our web designing or a mobile designing. And you can differentiate between this one as well. So it will give you text with different styles. So let's go inside one of these texts. And here they are displaying the name of the text and some example paragraph or a sentence with the text. Now you can see it's starting off with a thin 100. So that is the thinnest version of that particular text. And it has italic version, and also down here we have a black version. So that is the uh, one you can use to display your headlines and so on. So you can test the type by putting different text in here and try out different variants, and all the text that it consists of is displaying here, and all the license and everything. So all the Google fonts, you don't have to worry about the license. You can use it freely in any of your designs. So you don't have to worry about the licensing as well. And there are some other tools as well where you can get fonts. One is Adobe Typekit. It has some free versions as well, but most of the nice fonts you have to pay and get the subscription. And there are some other font websites as well. This one, you can download the font and install it in your design computer and access it with your design tool. So let's see how you can install a font in Figma itself. So most of these fonts in Google Fonts is already implemented in Figma. So you can access fonts section in Figma uh, by clicking on this text icon right here, and let's type something, increase the font size, and you can access all the fonts from here. So almost all the fonts in Google Fonts are already implemented in Figma. So you don't have to worry about installing these fonts manually. But let's say for an example, if you want to install a font in Figma, the first thing you have to do is you have to download the Figma application, because you can't install fonts on web version. So that after you download the application, you want this font to be in your design. So download the font from whatever the font provider, and it will show up right here. So after you install the font in your system, if you restart, if you reopen your Figma, it will display right here as well. So that is the that is the way that you have to install a font in Figma. But most of the time you don't have to worry about installing fonts. The Google fonts are enough, especially when you do web designing or graphic designing. Using Google API have more advantages than self-hosting your fonts in your designs. So it will increase the speed time, like load time of your design. It increase the speed, and it won't have any issues. Let's say for an example, If your font have some issues, the server responding time is really slow and so on. So that font won't display in your design. But if you use Google Fonts, you don't have to worry about any of these issues, and you can use them in your design. You can even download them and use them in your design. And if you're using applications like Figma, all of these fonts are already there. So you just have to design. All right. Font. Font are specific weights within a typeface. You choose a typeface, you use a font. If you were select Georgia as your typeface, then Georgia bold, italic, and regular would be your fonts. So if I select this as my typeface, Roboto as typeface, uh, thin 100 italic, light 300, all these are the fonts inside this Roboto typeface. Character. Character is an individual element, most commonly a single letter, number, or a punctuation mark. So the typeface is consist of these kind of a fonts, and each individual font combination is consist of this kind of a text, these characters. So individual elements are called characters. So these are right here. Weight, height, and size. This refers to the thickness, length, and overall size of the typeface. You can experiment with different weights and sizes and use the variations judiciously on your interface and break the monotony on long passages of text or to direct attention to a specific element. So let's say in my example right here, I only use this kind of a text. So only the paragraph text. Let's say I have a heading right here. Okay, this is my heading. I want my users' attention to be on that part. So what I can do is I can select my heading and change the font size to much larger one, let's say 20 pixels or 16 pixels, and use bold version. So in that way, you can increase the readability and you can tell your users, this is what my paragraph is about. So most of the time, users don't read the complete paragraph. So after reading your headline, they will be able to get a better idea about what is happening and what is your paragraph is about. And let's say you have some text that you want to underline or do something to uh, get users attention. So you can select underline and underline text right here, or you can select different combination, let's say italic, medium italic, and you can use those kind of a different variants of similar font or the typeface in order to give your users better readability in your designs. Letter spacing or tracking. The distance between the widest point of each character. Tracking specifically refers to the uniform increase or decrease in the horizontal space between characters. So if I go to Figma, right here, we have letter tracking. So if I increase letter spacing, you can see the horizontal space between two characters is increasing. So if it is a special case, if you're creating a logo or something, you can use that. Otherwise, you can keep it as 0. So it is the ideal amount between your characters in your design. Alignment. Alignment refers to how text is positioned. There are 4 main alignments: left, right, centered, and justified. So in Figma, you have all these 4 alignments as well. So this is left aligned by default, and this is center aligned, and this is right aligned. And if you want to access justified, you have to go inside by clicking on this icon, type settings, and select justify. So it will justify your text. It is similar to text alignment in your word processing software such as Microsoft Word as well. All right. So these are some typographic principles. Do you have any questions so far?
Sir,
Yeah, go ahead.
if it's come to the devices, the mobile or a laptop, those text will change or we can keep the same because in the screen wise they are different. The
Yeah.
big screen.
In that case, you can change the font sizes. You can use the same typeface or the font that you have selected, but for the desktop device, you can use the font size of something like 14. And for the mobile device, if it is too small and you have to put so much content, you can go up until 12. So if you go beyond 12, past 12, uh, 10 is not that readable. It's too small, but 12 is the minimum if you want some readability. So you can change the font size based on the device size that you have. If you have a plugin such as, let's say, if you're using a framework such as Tailwind and so on, so they have different variables that you can use. Let's say, so you can use in HTML, you can use H1, H2, H4, 3, H4, and so on. So it will give you different sizes of fonts, and paragraph is different size. So that is the main text size. So you can use these variations and use fonts with different sizes in your devices. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay, cool. Okay, these are some typographic principles. Number one, keep the number of fonts used at a minimum. Using more than 3 different fonts makes a website look unstructured and unprofessional. Keep in mind that too many type sizes and styles at once can also break any layout. So when you are using typefaces, let's say for an example, when you're creating a website, you selected more than 3 typefaces for you. One is for your headlines, another one is for your paragraph text, another one is for your buttons and so on. So that is not a good practice. So you have to make sure you create a website and a website or a mobile application look professional and structured as well. So in design aesthetic wise, it is not a good practice to use more than 3 fonts. Most of the time when we do designing, we only go up to 2. One is for the headings and one is for the paragraph and the body text. So that is a good practice to use. So one thing you have to make sure it is not looking nice if you select more than 3 typefaces, and it will also affect your speed of your application or the mobile application or the website as well, because server has to make so many requests. Let's say if you select 4 fonts, it has to make 4 requests to the server or the Google CDN to get and download these fonts for your user. So it is not a good user experience. It will take some time to download these fonts. That is the speed or the technical wise, but in the design aesthetics also, it is not looking that nice. Your website will look unprofessional and unstructured if you use so many typefaces. So always make sure to use maximum 2 or 3, and you can go with one typeface as well, especially when you do mobile applications. Next, a good practice is to use standard fonts. Font embedding services like Google Web Fonts or Typekit. Google Fonts I already showed you. Typekit is Adobe's font service, which is most of the nice looking fonts are not free. So you can go with Google Fonts when you do designing. Have a lot of interesting fonts that can give you designs something new, fresh, and unexpected. So what can go wrong? So when you have Google Fonts as your main font service, you don't have to worry about self-hosting fonts or anything like that. You can just use Google Fonts and create whatever you like in your designs. Actually, this approach has one serious problem. Interesting fonts can distract users from reading. Users can spend time thinking about the fonts that designers use rather than reading the text. So if it is a text-rich website, if you want your users to read your content, you have to make sure you choose your font face wisely. Otherwise, if you choose some playful or a decorative font, they won't read the font. They might be thinking about the font. So that is not the thing that you want to do. User experience. You have to make sure your readability, the text readability, should be there based on the uh, application or the users that you are targeting. Next one is limit line length. Having the right amount of characters on each line is key to the readability of your text. It shouldn't be your design that dictates the width of the text. It should also be matter of legibility. So let's say if I have a text, a paragraph right here with so much of text. Not this one. I'm going to copy this and paste it somewhere right here. Okay, this is my text. And I have another one right here. So if I compare first one with the second one has more readability. Otherwise, the first one doesn't have that much of readability because we have so many like words in the one line. So most of the time, we can't remember what we read already. The working memory or the cognitive memory can only remember up to 6 to 7 words per words per one go. So if you have more words in your vertical horizontal axis, it won't be a good user experience for your users. So you always have to make sure you give uh, up to 6 or 7 fonts. We call them chunking. So we give our information to our users by applying this chunking method. So they can remember what they already read and they can follow up with the paragraph easily. Otherwise, if you put something like this with longer longer horizontal paragraphs, it won't be a good user experience. So they won't remember what they already read and they might have to go back and follow up on what they already read. So that is another thing that you have to remember. You should have around 60 characters per line if you want a good reading experience. Having the right amount of characters on each line is key to the readability of your text. So 60 characters per line is the ideal characters that you have to implement in your designs. So in this diagram right here, you can see this is too narrow because we are not using our screens wisely. So especially when we are designing for mobile device, we have very limited screen size. In screen size, we call it real estate, screen real estate. So we have very limited screen size. So if you are not using it wisely, if you are only using certain uh, amount of certain percentage of that screen, that is not a good user experience. And this is the ideal range. If you can go something around 40 to 60, it will be the ideal range in your readability wise as well as you are using your screen size wisely without wasting any white space or anything. So that is the ideal range, 40 to 60. If you're going too wide, you are using your screen width to good effect, but in a readability wise, it is not a good user experience. So always make sure to be in this ideal range when you have a text-rich paragraph or text content in your designs. For mobile devices, you should go for 30 to 40 characters per line. Below is an example of two sites viewed on a mobile device. The first one uses 50 to 75 characters per line, optimal number of characters per line for print and desktop, while the second one uses the optimal 30 to 40 characters. So if you see this example right here, this one is not mobile optimized. It is having so many characters or the words per line, and on Washington Post example, it is very readable. So it is following the typographic guidelines. So when you do designing, you also have to follow these guidelines that mentioned. So 30 to 40 characters per line on mobile device, 40 to 60 on desktop or a tablet device. All right. Choose a typeface that works well in various sizes. Users will access your site from devices with different screen sizes and resolutions. Most user interfaces require text elements of various sizes, button copy, field labels, selection headers, etc. It is important to choose a typeface that works well in multiple sizes and weights to maintain readability and usability in every size. So when you select your typeface, the first thing you have to do is you should understand your users. So what is their requirement? Should I select a typeface to make it more readable? So is it a educational website where we publish blog post or the reading articles or anything? So in that case, you have to select a readable font. So let's say you are creating a banking application. So in that case, your end users might be professionals. So you have to select some sans serif font that is looking professional. Another example you can take is when you're creating an application for kids, you might have to select some playful font to get their attention, get and keep their attention in your device or the application you are designing. So you have to consider that as well. And you have to make sure, because people are using these your application in different device sizes with different resolutions, you have to test. So in the mobile frameworks such as CSS frameworks, Tailwind, or the Bootstrap or Ant Design or anything will help you to create that kind of a typography and change the font size based on the device that you have selected. But as a designers, what you can do is you can create mobile design, tablet design, and even desktop design and give them a different font sizes so the developer will get the different font size from the developer mode and use that font size in the design. So this one is 14 pixels, and when you are designing for the mobile side desktop, it can be 16 pixels and so on. So user or the developer can get a better idea and create their variables based on that and do the coding. So make sure to create at least three designs for mobile, desktop, and a website if it is a web application. But if it is a mobile application, you can only create mobile version. All right. So these are some typefaces. So I have added some typography tools in our Google Classroom. One of these is this one, type scale. So you can use type scale to check different fonts and how the hierarchy of different fonts will look like. Let's say I want to select different fonts from here. I'm going to select. This is my basic font. So I have selected that one. Now you can see this font I selected is 16 pixels. It is my base font, this one right here. And the H6 will look like this, and the H1 will 2.9. And if you want pixel values, it will look like this. So as a good practice, when you do front-end coding, nowadays we are only using like relative values, REM, EM, and avoid using pixels because screens can refer to your screen size and increase the font size based on your REM value. If you put the text in REM pixels, it will be fixed. So make sure you use REM or EM values when you use typography in your designs, especially when you do coding. Okay, this is my heading text and this is the paragraph text. So you can see how it will look like in different devices as well by using this type scale tool. Okay, this is another good practice that you should do. Avoid all caps. All cap text, meaning text with all letters capitalized, is fine in context that you don't involve reading, such as acronyms or logos. But when your message involves reading, don't force your users to read all cap text. All capital print greatly retards the speed of scanning and reading in comparison with lowercase type. So in this example right here, so if I try to read this capital text, I have to put an individual attention to each of these characters. So the flow of reading is not that good. In readability wise, you always have to make sure you use sentence case or lowercase case text. So when comparing to lowercase, this is very hard to read. Okay, next one, don't minimize spacing between lines. In typography, we have a special term for spacing between two lines of text, leading or line height. So in Figma, I go in here, you can change the line height by changing this value right here. So it is called line height. So you can change it, increase it or decrease it to the value you like. But make sure to keep it 100% if you, sorry, keep it auto if you need the ideal value that Figma is giving you. So otherwise it is not that good and readable. So the auto is the ideal value. By increasing the lead-in, you increase the vertical white space between lines of text, generally improving readability in exchange of screen real estate. So if you increase the line height of your text, it will improve the readability of your text, but you are sacrificing your screen area. So that is something you have to consider. As a rule, leading should be around 30% more than the character height for good readability. So if you're using applications such as Figma, you don't have to worry about these calculations. Whatever the character or the typeface you have selected, if you put the auto value right here, it will create the ideal line height for your text. So you can use Figma pre-built functions to create a better typography as well. So this is good, this is too much, and this is too tight. So this is the ideal one, and you can use auto in Figma to accomplish that as well. Properly using white space between paragraphs has been proven to increase comprehension up to 20%, as pointed out by Dimitri Fadio. So if you are using properly if you properly uh, create your line height between paragraphs or even the text, it will increase the readability. So if you have so many paragraphs in your text, let's say this is one paragraph and I have another paragraph, this one. So if I put it like this after one another, it is not a good user experience. So you should give it some space, so it will improve the readability and users can differentiate. So the first paragraph may be the introduction, and if they want to read more detail, they can go on to the second paragraph and so on. So that is how you can give users detail or the information in chunks so they can understand what they are reading about. Otherwise, if you put everything in one go in one paragraph, it is not a good user experience, so they won't read it anyway. The skill of using whitespace lies in providing your users with a digestible amount of content, then stripping away extraneous details. So if you do this kind of a layout with uh, paragraphs like this, users can read it and get an idea about what it is about. If you put it all together like this, it won't be a good user experience. It is hard to read and also get an idea about what is the paragraph is about. All right. So here also you can clearly see the heading, subheading, and the paragraph. They don't have much spacing. But in right hand side, you can clearly read it without an issue. Okay, next one, make sure you have sufficient color contrast. The first one, the lines of the text do not meet the color contrast ratio recommendations and are difficult to read against their background colors. So you always have to make sure, even if it is a dark mode or a light mode, make sure to have a good color contrast ratio. So that is how users can differentiate between your background and foreground elements and read the paragraph. So you always have to make sure you check the color contrast ratio and use the recommended value to increase the readability in your designs. The example below, the lines of text, the color contrast ratio recommendations and are easy to read against their background colors. So this one, when comparing this one, is very readable. Okay, this is one tool that you can use to create or select different uh, typefaces for your any of your projects. All right, so let's take a 15-minute break. After break, we are going to talk about branding guidelines and style guides. So let's meet around 10:45. Welcome back, everyone. All right. We were discussing about the typography, and now let's cover the branding guidelines versus style guide. Branding guidelines are clearly defined rules and standards that communicate how your brand should be represented to the world. Branding guidelines help businesses to ensure consistency and demonstrate what the company is, what it does, and what it stands for. Think of it like a brand rule book that centralizes the overall look and feel of your brand identity. So, as UX designers or a UI designer, or even a graphic designer, when someone is trying to build a brand or a new product, so if they don't have a brand or color guide or anything, if they ask you to create a logo and do everything from the scratch, as a UX designer, you have to create a branding guideline as well. So if they come up with you with some idea, this is his brand is about. Let's say, for an example, if it is a renewable energy company, such as a solar power company or something like that, you have to research about this particular company and this particular domain and come up with a logo for them to uh, get their brand established, and also the typography and everything. You should consider about their end users and come up with these designs and provide them with a branding guideline or a style guide. So branding guideline is how they should brand their logo. For an example, let's say how they how should they print their logo in different backgrounds and so on. So if I show you an example, most of the companies have branding guidelines. So if I go to Apple website, some of them have dedicated websites for branding guidelines, and also some of them have PDFs as well. So these are Apple branding guidelines. They are mentioning how to use their logo, how not to use their logo for the reseller companies. So this is the one line signature, two line, choosing a configuration, what is the placement for the logo and everything, and how not to use their logo. Everything is there. They have mentioned. So minimum size, this is the minimum size. 8 millimeter should be minimum height for their logo. So in that way, everyone, every reseller or everyone who is trying to advertise with their logo have to follow these guidelines and make sure to do the designs based on this. Otherwise, they are not valid, or it is something we do, like, let's say, for an example, you change the size of their logo, you change the color. So it is not professional, or even in some cases, they can sue their company, or let's say authorized resellers or someone who misuse their logos as well. So you always have to make sure you also prepare this kind of a branding guideline for users or the stakeholders who you do projects, and give them with the project submission. So in that case, they can send it to their internal design teams, whoever do their social media advertising, or the social media managers if they outsource their social media post or the platforms. So they have a good documentation or the blueprint to follow when working with the design. So if I go for another example, say Coca-Cola branding guidelines, this one. They also have the different combinations. So this is the primary logo, this is the horizontal logo, the secondary logo, these are the color palette and then they have used, and these are the color combinations or the color combinations, and this is uh, things to avoid when using the logo, and these are the typefaces they have selected, and everything is documented in a one particular PDF or a website. So it is a good experience. So the designers or anyone can refer to this and do their designs accordingly. So it will maintain the brand consistency throughout the print design or a digital media design, that is the place that they have to go in order to do any changes or use their logo in any of these designs. And style guide is something different. So in here, we have a style guide in Coca-Cola documentation. Using that in iOS 1, they only had the logo. So that is the branding guideline. That is how they can brand their logo. The style guide is something like this, the color palette that they can use, and even the typography, what size of typography for the heading color, and the paragraph text should be this size, and so on. So we mention that in our style guide. So if I give you another example, Figma in UX design especially, we create a diagram called a system, let's say, uh, how to say it, library of our components are in a design system. So if I show you an example of design system, maybe this one. In the design system, we create it like this kind of atomic design structure where we create basic designs in our atom section. And then in the molecules, we create cards or the stickers or anything that we can create using these atoms. And finally, we combine all these and create our screens like this. The advantage of this is we can maintain the consistency throughout, and also when you want to do a change to a color or icon or anything, you can just go to atom section and do the change you like, and it will change in all instances. For an example, if I change the color of one of these icons, if that icon is anywhere in my design, any other place, it will change the color as well. So in that way, it will be easier for designers to maintain the consistency, and if there's any changes, they can easily do it without worrying, without manually changing every instance. They can change it one place, and all the other instances will adapt the change as well. So that is another thing that you can do as a UX designers, creating a design system in Figma when you do designs for website or a mobile application. That is not a branding guideline or a style guide, but for the designers, it will be helpful. A style guide is a documentation that a UX designer creates to document a growing and ever-evolving sets of design guidelines that arise from the design process. So after you analyze your user interview data and have a conversation with your stakeholders, you can create this style guide and maintain the consistency throughout your designs. Let's say uh, you are not the only designer in the team. So after you create this style guide, everyone in the team who is involving in the design process can follow this style guide and do their design. So designs will be uniform and consistent. Okay, why is it important for any product? Number one is consistency. So if you don't have that kind of a documentation, let's say you work for some place and then you move on and work for some other client or a company. The new designer comes in and join the team. If you don't have a style guide or a design system in place, he manually have to recreate, or he have to recreate the design. There will be some changes. So the consistency won't be there if that is the case. And number two is defining standards and usage. And also you can define what are the standards. These are the colors that you should choose or use in the design. This is the background. This is the typeface. So you can follow this blueprint whenever you require. And number three, it will be easier for the front-end developers to write their CSS and HTML by referencing all the important information and data. Find hex codes for colors easily. Reuse UI components, SVG files, and quickly find and extract any other assets that may require. So even for the front-end developers, if we have this kind of a layout, they can quickly gather the code for that. Let's say for an example, if they want code for this particular button, so they can do, what they can do is they can switch on the developer mode and see what this button. They can get the SVG version of that and also CSS style for that particular button. And there are many versions as well. If they need iOS code, they can get that Swift UI code. And even for Android, they can use the same thing, Compose code, XML code, or whatever. So it will make the developer's life easier as well. And it also helps the UX designers to craft responsive layouts that fit the brand style. So by having a standard guidelines or the style guide or uh, that kind of a documentation, whenever we need a design change or new feature implementation, we can craft responsive layouts based on those basic elements easy. So you don't have to recreate everything from the beginning. Next one, the social media managers can consult the document to use the exact typeface, color palette, and graphic assets to create a consistent social media feed. So you can send it to whoever you want, who is doing social media managing, or anyone who is doing your advertising, print advertising, or paper advertising. You can send this to, style guide and the branding guideline, and they will follow it, and it will help you to maintain the consistency throughout any media platform. All right. Now let's talk about UX laws. Any questions so far regarding branding guidelines, style guide, or anything? You can send a message as well if you have any questions.
So, when it comes to user wise, there are different view. So that once it complete the overall
UX laws
design.
are the collection of laws or design standards that designers must take into account when thinking and improving the user experience. There are many UX laws. Actually, there are many UX laws adding to the list in a weekly basis as well, because there are so many UX research going on nowadays. But these are some basic laws that every UX designer or a developer should remember when they approach a UX project. The number one is Hicks law. Ixlo states that users spend more time making a decision based on the number of complexity of choices. So this means that the more choices you given to a user, more time they spend on making a decision. The more choices you present your users with, the longer it will take them to reach a decision. If you have a multiple tasks to complete within a limited time, you will take more time making a decision compared to if you have only two tasks to complete. So for an example, you can apply these principles in your design to reduce the options for time critical tasks. So in this example, the more choices you given your user, the longer it takes for them to make a decision. So if you ask them a question, how are you feeling today, and give this kind of a select list with so many options. So they will spend some time to scroll through and also try to differentiate between items, such as how they exactly feeling. Are they feeling awesome or amazing or something like that? And it will be really time consuming, and it will take so much of time for them to make a decision. But if you provide them with this kind of a layout, only few options, they can easily click on one of these and move on with the process. So make sure to give less options to your users to make decisions fast. And even here, this menu, if you categorize it clearly, let's say for an example, if you categorize as vegan diets, if you provide them without categorization and so many options, it will take them to take so much of time for them to make a decision, even in a digital menu, and also physically. If you go to a restaurant, if they provide you with a menu with no categorization, it will take some time for you to make a decision, because you have to go through the whole menu items to make a decision. But categorization is a good thing, so they can make a decision quite easily and faster. And in this shopping cart example, a one-click buy option. Let's say you want to visit a website such as Daraz or even Amazon, and you only want to buy a one product. So if you want to add it to cart, you again have to go to the cart and maybe check out. That is a good practice if you want to buy multiple items. But if it is only one item, you can add this kind of a buy now button, and they can directly buy the item without even going extra steps. And quick login option given. So most of the application we are using, even if it is a mobile application or even a web application, we have now social media buttons such as this Google with continue with Google or continue with Facebook. So that will make users' life easy. Otherwise, they have to put their email address and set up a password. It will take some time. But right now, you can quickly click one of these buttons and move on with the progress. So you can quickly see the application yourself rather than putting all this information. Number two, break down complex processes into smaller steps. So in example right here, you can see in the shopping cart application, they have four steps. Number one is cart, where you select your product that you want to buy. Then information. The information you have to provide the contact information, shipping details, and also continue shipping. And then the shipping selection might be there. And finally, you have to do the payment. So this kind of we call this a breadcrumb setting. So this UI will help you to understand where you are in the step process. And also you can use this kind of a layout. Let's say for an example, we have to get user input to make a payment or subscribe to a service that you are providing. Number one, you are asking is for their basic details, where they input use their name, email address, and so on. And then their company details, where they're working at, and the company email address, physical address maybe. And then we are providing them to select a subscription plan based on their requirement. And finally, the payment details. So if I give you a working example of this is a website I did recently. So I also implemented the same thing. So number one is we are asking for location and date. This is actually for a lost item finder application. And number one is that. And number two is item details, where they have to input what is the lost item and some details about it. And finally, the personal information, where their name, email address, contact information, and do the payment. So you can use the same methods in your design. So in that way, you can give better user experience for your users with less choices in limited time. So they will make the choices faster, and in user experience wise also, it is a really good experience for them. Number three, categorize choices to make them easier to search for and identify. So if you take a look at Netflix or even Spotify, it has categorizations based on genres of the movies or the types of the music that your listening habits and everything. So it will give you better user experience. You can select whatever you like easily without browsing whole website. Number four, highlight recommended options. In this example below, in the cookie consent pop-up, if you highlight the option, recommended option in green color, users tend to click on that particular part rather than clicking on this no thanks button. So that is also a good user experience that we can use in our designs. And even here, we can highlight the recommended options in green color. So they will click on one of these rather than try to browse through the whole uh, results. That is Hicks law. Now let's talk about Fitts law. Fitts law states that larger the distance and the smaller the size of the target, the longer it will take. According to this law, fast movements and smaller targets result in greater error rates due to the speed accuracy trade-off. So in order to avoid that, we have to create larger targets. I will discuss it in a diagram as well. If you want to make sure that your users don't get lost uh, by having larger distances between, let's say for an example, you provide them with this kind of a form. So when they have to read all these and fill the form, and then we have buttons placed right here in a smaller sizes. So the effort they have to put on to find the button is quite high when comparing to this one. So always make sure give them options like call to action buttons in larger size, and also put the necessary items. Let's say for an example, these items are required for me to zoom in and zoom out and even share. So you can categorize and give all the items in one place. So that is also one user experience. So you users don't have to move their mouse everywhere in the screen when we have all our tools right here. So otherwise they have to find tools right here, or that is not good user experience. So it will actually, users will actually spend more time finding items rather than using the interface or using your application. So you have to create larger targets. Increase the surface area of call to action button. So these are the call to action button. We are calling for an action. They have to click on these buttons to move forward in the process. Minimize movement. Soon after they read this particular paragraph, they can quickly move their mouse or their thumb and click on the button. So that is how we can minimize movements. Make some actions harder than others, especially when you go to Facebook or Instagram or even LinkedIn. If you try to deactivate your account, that actions are really hard. You have to first go to your account settings and look for deactivation, or then again you have to enter your password, and also maybe the confirmation code they are sending to your email to deactivate your account. So that is how we can use this Fits law when users try to. We don't want our users to leave our platform, so we are making this action harder than any other actions. Okay, in this particular example, the the form area, the email address, password, and the confirm password area is larger. So the target area is larger, and they can easily click the button as well. And next one, placing commonly used function together to reduce cursor movements. So in Figma, we have all our similar functions or the ready to use functions in one area. So you don't have to worry about finding them in any other area, and it will reduce the cursor movements as well. Here also, you can clearly see when you fill the form or whatever, you can quickly click on this button. So that is a good user experience. Otherwise, if you place your button far down or somewhere else and a smaller size, it is not a good user experience, because users have to move their mouse, and also they have to look for the button themselves rather than showing it in the screen. Okay, this is another practice that companies use to prevent frequent accidental shutdowns on their phones. Apple makes users to swipe a slider to turn off their phone. Even in Android, if you have your phone in your pocket, and uh, you know that it can have that accidental screen touch or something like that. So in order to avoid that, most of the companies are providing this kind of a layout. If we want to turn off your phone, you have to slide to power off. Even in some payment, when you try to make a payment using your credit card, in mobile applications mostly, they are asking to move a slider in order to make a payment. So that is a good user experience to avoid accidental payments or accidental shutdowns on your phones. And to reset power off, all users have to press the cancel button. They have to press this cancel button in order to come out of it. The cancel button's consequences doesn't compare to turning the phone off. So Apple make it easier to accidentally press it. All right. Fit slow for mobile devices. So when you are creating a mobile application or a mobile website with some call to action buttons, you have to make sure you place your call to action buttons or the prominent buttons that your users should click in this green color area. So that is the natural area when you uh, have your phone in your hand. If you are using it with the left hand. This green color area is the natural area where your thumb can reach. You have to stretch your thumb in order to reach this part, and this part is really hard to reach. And if you are using both hands, this is the middle area, is the natural area for you to reach without an issue. And even for the right-handed people, if they're using the phone with right hand, this is the natural area. So you should make sure place the all call to action and the necessary buttons in this particular green area, and all the other unnecessary or uh, the things that they don't use frequently, you can place them in a stretching or the hard to use area as well. All right. Next one is the Jacob's law. Jacob's law states that when users are used to using a product, then users build their expectations around one familiar product that appears similar. Because users spend most of their time on their other sites, they expect your site to work in the same way as other sites they have already visited. So let's say for an example, you are creating online store or a shopping cart application. So users have some experience, prior experience by visiting other competitor application, let's say such as Dara's application or uh, AliExpress or even Amazon application. So they have some mental models. This is how the product website or an e-commerce website should work, should look like. This is the placement of the search bar. This is how I can search for a product and add to my cart and check out. So you have to make sure you follow the same process, because if you try to if you try to do something new that users are not used to, it is not a good user experience, because these users already have created mental models based on these experiences. So you don't have to provide them with a new user flow. Make sure to follow the user flow that they're already familiar with and apply them with your designs. For instance, think how Amazon and Myntra and most of the e-commerce sites behave. They follow similar patterns, similar checkout processes. Most of the mental models are almost same. This way, users will focus on their task rather than learning new models. So if you are creating an e-commerce website, you have to uh, do research about how the user flow is designed in different mostly used websites, and you have to implement this designs in your application as well. In that way, users won't spend much time learning about your application. They can easily do the task that they do and buy the product without an issue with the prior experience they already have. Both the e-commerce websites using same size selection option and following the buttons and information on the right side and image on left. So you can see in this clothing website, they are using same selection, same type of a selection for size selection, and also add to cart buttons are in a similar placement. So that is the ideal thing for your users as well. So they don't have to learn something new. A great example is designing a page with a search bar. Users are accustomed to seeing a search bar near the top of the page, often with a magnifying glass icon. So even in this page right here, you can see magnifying glass icon and the search bar on top. So even we don't put the search term right here, just having a magnifying glass is enough, because we are so used to it. When we go to Google, when we go to search engine, or even a e-commerce website, or even anything that we interact in daily basis, we can quickly search by having the search bar on top. So you can apply the same thing in your designs as well. If a designer decides to place the search bar in a completely new place on the page, it can create confusion for the user. If they want to continue using your site, they have to relearn where the search bar is, taking the extra time. So don't put a search bar or anything, or even a header navigation in totally random or a different place rather than it is used to in other websites. Make sure to follow these standards, and it will make your and also the user's life easier as well. In this Best Buy website also, they have search bar on top, and all the necessary navigation items, menu items are also on top. search bar positioning at Best Buy website. All right, give me 1 minute. Okay, let's move on. Next, we have Miller's law. Miller's law states that an average person can only keep 7 plus or minus in their working memory. Organizing content in a smaller chunks will help users to understand, process, and memorize easily. So, like we discussed earlier when we talk about typography as well, uh, Miller's law suggests that we can only keep up to 7 chunks of in our working or cognitive memory. So we have to present them with chunks in order to make their user experience easy. Display information in chunks. This way, it is manageable to your users to remember what they consumed. So if you have so many graphs like this, let's say for an example, it is about a accounting application where you track all your transactions. If you put so many visualizations right here, it is really hard for your users to differentiate between and put attention to one of these. But if you put them in a way like this, in provide them only one or two graphs at once, it will be easier for them to look at it and get an idea about what this graph is about. Otherwise, if you provide them with so many information, it is not that good. They will get disappointed and it is hard to follow on as well. Toggle keys are limited to 6 in the notification panel, reducing the cognitive load on the user. So if you use using Android or Apple device in your uh, settings menu, when you scroll through, they are only providing the basic, very necessary items in uh, first scope. So if you want to access more information, you have to slide the notification panel and access all the information. Once in the notification panel, users get a view of a quick panel settings where toggle keys are placed in rows and columns, making it easier for users to follow. So if they provide us with all these buttons, it will be hard for us to uh, look what is actually we require. So we can customize and put all the necessary items in here and all the things that we don't use regularly in a next screen. Even in a credit card, breaking a checkout process into steps and creating spacing for card numbers like this, you can easily recognize. So this is similar to actual physical card. Users can quickly enter their card number, name of the card, and expiry date by looking at the front of their card and flip around and put the CVV card. So that is also a good user experience that you can use in your designs uh, to maintain the familiarity or give them the information in chunks in the design. Even here, if you provide them with a form with so many form fields and not any categorization, so we can categorize whatever the information we are asking. Let's say for an example, these can be the personal information, these can be the educational information, working experience, and so on. So in that way, we can provide users with better user experience. So they know they are inserting information in this particular category. It is a good example of applying this Miller's law in our user experience design. All right, next we have serial position effect. This law states that we tend to remember the first and the last item in the series. There are two main concepts involved in the serial position effect. Number one is primary effect. The tendency to recall the first item is called the primary effect because we require less processing effort in rehearsing the item. Recency effect. The recency, the tendency to recall the last item is called the recency effect because our working memory preserves temporary information. So if I give you a list of names of 10 different people, most of you will remember the first and the last one. First one because the tendency to recall, because you put your attention in the beginning and also at the end, you remember what you heard. Uh, Things in the middle, most of you might forget. That is the serial position effect. So you can apply it in our designs as well. Highlight key information in the beginning and the end, while placing the least important items in the middle of the sequence. So if you provide them with the, let's say, terms of agreement, terms of services, that kind of a documentation, you can put a heading right here and all the terms of service or the privacy policy document or the content down here and put the call to action button in here. So if I show you an example of that, I fill the form, the first one. So right here, all this information. So the basic personal details I have described, I have put them here. And if they want to read the terms and conditions, they can go to another page and read the terms and conditions. So in that way, you are putting all the necessary information on top and the bottom. So all these details right here, they don't really need them to remember in order to proceed with the flow. So we can put them in the middle like this. NFS speedometer is on the right side and the map is on the left side in the display. So all the other details like these are not necessary details. So they need the map to identify their placement and also their speed. So those are some necessary details that they require. So we are placing them at the beginning and at the end. Instagram bottom navigation home is on the left and the profile option is on the right side, and all the least important icons are in the middle. So home icon and the profile icon are on either side and all the least important icons are in the middle. We are not using these things frequently. We are only using the home button and the profile button, and also this one placed in the middle in different UI icon right now. So that is also a good user experience. So in order to avoid this serial position effect, what we can do is we can first maintain task relevant information within the user interface. So task relevant information, if I go to Figma, we have this ruler right here. So that is uh, one task relevant information, and all the layers are categorized in here. And all the layer properties is here. And my toolbar is down right here. So all the task relevant information for creating a scale or creating a rectangle, line, arrow or anything, I can access by accessing this toolbar. And typography related items, everything is right here. So if I select this typography, all the typography related items are right here. And all the layer related things are here. So that is how you can position task relevant information in the interface. Limit the amount of recall required. So in this example right here, we have applied 3 filters. So if users want to remove one filter, they can quickly click on this cross icon and remove that particular icon. So other 2 filters will be there, but this one will be gone. So they have an idea about what are the filters that I have switched on, what is the sorting mechanism that I have selected. So they can select and do the changes accordingly. So when you designing something as well, always make sure to give necessary information or the task relevant information for your users in a similar place. So you can quickly go through this and scan through and change the customization for the uh, as they need in their design. Emphasize key information in the beginning and the end. So if I visit a website such as Apple or any other product website, Android or Google Pixel website, they have all the key information. What is the product is about? What is the main uh, advantage of buying this product is in the beginning, and at the end they provide all the information that we require: free delivery, all the services, what is how is it differentiating from other devices, and everything in the end. So they are, if I right now if I go to Apple website and look for iPhone or something, they are following the same practices right now as well. So the first one is the product and how is it, um, give it a small motto without so many information. So this is the area that they are focusing, and all the information they are telling us a story about what we can do with the device. So if we go further down, all the competitor, all the other models they have, and at the right bottom we have call to action button and how you can connect. So all this information are there. Okay, next one is Zeigarnik effects. This happens with all of us. When we have some important task to do and when we forget to do it, we tend to feel bad about it. This is the Zeigarnik effect. It states that we remember uncompleted and uninterrupted tasks more than the completed task. So as a UX designer, you can use this to good effect, but most of the social media companies and the application are using this Zeigarnik effect to bind their users to their platform. For an example, let's say for an LinkedIn profile strength meter shows one step remaining to expert profile. So whenever you log into your LinkedIn profile, they show you this progress bar. So you can see it is not completed as so whenever you log in, you try to complete it and finish it, because they are prompting it over and over, and uh, we remember that we haven't completed this and we have to complete this. So that is how they're using it in the design. And step tracker showing remaining steps. So if you download applications such as a health tracker or a step tracker, and you set up certain number of steps that you have to take in daily basis, if you haven't taken them, you can prompt your users with this kind of a layout. You have to go this much of steps in order to complete or achieve the tasks for the day. So that is another good way that you can use. You can benefit your users to set goals and achieve them. Okay, next one, von Restorff effect. It is also known as the isolation effect. This effect predicts that when multiple similar objects are present, the one that differs from the rest is most likely to be remembered. Highlight elements like call to action to stand out from the rest of the design. It is easier to noticeable by the user. So if you put this kind of a form and uh, highlight your call to action recommended button in different color, users tend to click on that button rather than clicking others. So let's say you don't have any highlighted button right here, you're just using the same color for this button as well. So they will take some time, and maybe they don't click on that button at all if they want to, if you provide them with this kind of a design without any highlighted button. All right, so that is uh, all the UX laws that you should learn as UX designers. And whenever you do UX design, you have to apply these in your designs as well in order to create a better user experience for your users. Okay. Okay, now we have 30 minutes, so I'm not going to start off with the wireframing today. Let's do Figma practicals. So I want you to visit our Figma board. Uh, Let me share the link as well on Zoom chat. Please visit this link. I created boards for everyone. If one of you don't have a page right here, please let me know so I can create one as well. Okay, this is my page. Last week we discussed about Figma home screen, community, and Figma design file. So I think you went through the recording and you have a good idea about the Figma layout and how you can create different elements and what are the approaches that you should take. What are the steps that you should take to create a Figma design file as well. Okay, now let's talk about these Boolean operations. Figma have 4 Boolean operations: union, subtract, intersect, and exclude. So in order to show that, I will create 2 shapes using Figma. My first shape is a square. I'm going to change the color to this color. Something, let's do this one. And I'm going to create another shape. Let's create an eclipse. So these are the 2 shapes I have. So in order to create Boolean operations, so in the new layout, we have all the Boolean operations right here. So if I union selection, it will create the unions. The color of the uppermost element will take the will be the color of the union. So like this. And then we have subtract selection. So it will subtract the uppermost element from the element below. So it will look like this. And then intersect. So it will show the intersect of these 2 elements. So this area will show up if I select intersect selection. And finally, we have exclude selection. So not the intersection, all the other area will show up if I select exclude selection. So those are the 4 Boolean operations in Figma. So when you create a logo, when you create a component or something, you can apply this in your design. So let's say for an example, you want to create a card with an image. So to accomplish that, let's say this is the card you want to create. Card. And the size of the card can be, say, 1000, and height is 360. So this is my card. And I want it to have a image right here. So I'm going to create an image card and center it. So in order to center it, you have to select it, and we have options right here. You can position it align left, align horizontal centers, align right, but I want it to be vertically centered. So vertical center will look like this. And then I want this area to go away because I'm going to put an image inside that. So I'm going to select both of these and apply. Sorry. Okay, you have to create a shape in order to apply the Boolean operation. So let's create a shape rather than create a frame. So this is the shape I have, and this is the frame. change the color of this to this color. And select both of these and apply this. So it will give you this kind of a layout. So you can put an image in here as well, especially when you designing some vectors or cards for your designs.
Excuse me,
Responsive grid
sir.
layout for desktop, tablet, and mobile.
Excuse me,
Okay.
sir.
Now let's create 3 desktop, tablets, and mobile. This is my desktop layout. So desktop. Desktop. Yeah, you can ask the question you have.
Sir, is there a shortcut key to show the icons for Boolean, those 4 points
Harish,
on,
I'm sorry, can you please repeat from the beginning?
uh, is there a shortcut key or a place on the menu where I can see the Boolean, those 4 icons?
Shortcut key, actually in new Figma layout, they have added everything right here. So when you select those two, you have to go in here and select from this layout. There's no shortcut key, but actually we are not using this much in our UX designing. So that is why I think they have put it this in this place. So you can access it by referring to this. There's no shortcut keys as far as I know for that
Okay.
particular task.
So it's in the design section.
Yeah, right here. You can see my screen, right?
Yeah.
Okay. If you click on this particular caret down icon, you can access all this. Clear?
Clear.
Okay. Let's move forward. Responsive grid layout. Okay, this is my desktop, and then let's create a tablet. Maybe this one. That, and finally a mobile device. Phone. Just this. Okay. Now we have 3 devices. So when you do designings, you have to switch on the grid layout. So if you switch on the grid layout, it will help you to keep space and align design consistently, both horizontally and vertically in all pages. So let's switch on the grid layout for these 3. Let's do it for desktop first. Layout grid, you want to click on this and it will switch on the grid layout. Let's do the same thing for tab layout as well. Layout grid. This one as well. So now we have layout grids for desktop, tab, and mobile. But in order to create it right now, when you have this kind of a grid layout, it is not what we require to do design. So we actually need columns. So when you're creating a column, we have to create 12 column layout for desktop, 8 for tablet, and 4 for mobile. So in order to create columns, what you can do is the desktop, you have to click on this layout grid setting and select columns from here. Right now I have 5 columns. I need 12 columns. So I'm going to create it like this. This is the 12 column layout. And if I need some margin between my columns, not between, around my columns from here and even from here, some padding, I can add it right here. I need 30 pixels. So that is the area that safe area for my design. So I'm not going to put anything beyond this particular line, this red line. I'm not going to put anything beyond that red line. So I'm going to design whatever I design within this layout. So that is how you can create a grid layout in desktop. Now let's create it for tablet size. We need 8 columns. So go to columns, and in here let's add 8, and let's give it some margin as 15 pixels. So it will look like this, 8 column layout. For mobile, I need 4 column layout. Go in here, select columns, and select 4 columns. Let's add some margin as well, 15 pixels. So it will look like this. So you have to make sure you don't go beyond this red line and even here. So what you can do is you can create rulers. So you can drag and drop your ruler right here. So it will give you a better visibility as well. And even for the ending side right here. Let's do it the same for the tablet and the mobile. Okay, now you can get an idea. You can use this as a guideline, not to exceed, not to go beyond that. So if you want to switch off this, you can quickly go to View and Pixel Grid. You can switch it off, and Layout Grids, you can switch it off. The shortcut keys are displayed next to it right here. Shift plus G is for grid. Rulers, Shift plus R. You can click on them, switch on and switch off, whatever the uh, design helpers that you require. Okay, these are the container sizes for different devices. Desktop is 1120 pixels, tablet 1680, I'm sorry. Mobile is 358, but you don't have to worry about this because Figma is providing a pre-built, pre-designed layout. So you can quickly select whatever you like from these frame sizes they are already providing. So you don't have to remember any of these. Okay. Next, we have auto layout. Auto layout make frames and components to responsive. So we applied auto layout earlier as well, but I will show you an example how we can apply auto layout in our design. So let's create a rectangle or a square. So this is my first square. Going to name it as 1. And then I'm going to create 9 of these because I require 10 rectangles. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So now I have 10 rectangles right here. So you can't see because it is in the same placement. So in here I have 10 layers. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all 10 layers. So the purpose of this is to create auto layout, responsive auto layout. Select all this and right click and click on frame selection. And I'm going to name it as auto layout. So now I have this auto layout frame. So in order to show every square I created and make them in auto layout, what I have to do is click on the uppermost auto layout and that frame I have created, and then go in here and we have option called use auto layout or shift plus A if I use shortcut. I'm not going to use shortcut because you won't be able to see what I'm doing. So if I click on here, it will give me the auto layout, but it still don't display all my items in there. I actually made a mistake. I have to create frames, not shapes. So let's create frames. This one is number 1. Let's create 10 frames. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10. This is my frames that I want to put auto layout into. So right now when I paste them, it is perfectly balanced and created in order. But let's say I created it like this in everywhere without considering alignment or anything. I just created the design like this. 10. Now if I want to apply auto layout to that, what I have to do is I have to select all these like this. You can see the layers are also selecting, and right click on that and create frame selection. And then let's rename it to auto layout. And then let's switch on this, and I have all my rectangles inside that. But right now it don't have any gap in between those elements, especially here. So in order to, okay, now let's start off with this one. I'm going to keep it here. So if I want to add gap between these two elements, what I have to do is I have to go in here, vertical gap between objects. So I'm going to give it a value of 20. Now it created some gap between the elements. Then right now it is aligning vertically. This is the vertical layout. So if I want horizontal layout, I want to click this one. So it will align horizontally. Now let's say I want a flex or a wrap. It should wrap around my particular division. So if I click this wrap button, whenever I change in the size of my design, my uppermost frame, it will take the size of that. So that is how you can create a responsive layout using Figma. And also we have some other controls here as well. So if I give this hug contents, it won't right now it has fixed with this 1485 58 1861 is the height. So we don't need to be that much large or the in height it is too big. So what we can do is, in order to avoid that hug, we can put hug contents that will take the size of all of our elements and uh, create the uppermost frame with that size. So if I put the height also hug elements, it will be like this. So let's put a background color for that particular part. So you can see this is my layout, the auto layout, and all of these are individual elements inside that layout. So if I change the size of this, let's say like this, it will change based on the responsive layout I have selected. Okay. See what are the other options they are providing. So you can create horizontal gap and the vertical gap, and also you can add some horizontal padding as well, like this. So it will add some padding between the element and the main frame. So let's give it a 15, and vertical padding as so also should be 15. So if I do this again, it will take the size of my design. So that is the responsive layout you can create using Figma. All right. Now let's create components. So we already discussed how to create components, but I'm going to go through it in more detail right now. So let's say I want to create a button component. So this is the component I'm going to create. I'm going to put a text first and increase the font size to whatever the size that you can see. It's type sign up or something. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on it and click frame selection. And this is my first button. I'm going to call it a button and add a background color. Let's add a gradient. Okay, this is my background color. I'm going to make it auto layout and then add some padding. On x-axis it should be 30, y-axis let's say 50. Let's increase the value to 60. Okay, this is my button and add some border radius as well, 50. Okay, this is the normal state of the button. You know that when I try to click on a button, it has different status. For an example, this particular button, when I move it, it changed the color. So you can see that it is having some lighter version of the blue color they already have. So if I take another button right here, it is also changing the color. So we can create these as components in Figma. This is the first default button and I wanted to change color to much darker shade of these two colors I have created when I hover over it. So this one and this one also should be a little darker. I also want to have an inactive button. So give it an appearance of 50%. So this is my main button and this is my inactive button and this is the mouse over button. So let's rename them default. This is inactive. This who. Okay, now I have three states of the button. So in order to create a component, what I can do is I have to select. I'm sorry guys, there was a power cut. When was the last time you heard me? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, can hear you.
Yes, sir. Can hear.
All right, I was mentioning about creating these three states for the buttons. So the first one I want to be a default button and the second one inactive. Yeah, I reduced the opacity of that by 50%. And the last one I increased the color to some darker version of that particular color. Or maybe if I want to show it to you, I'm going to change the direction of the gradient as well. So you will be able to see it clearly what I want to accomplish. Okay, after that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all three and then click on this actions button right here. And there we have create component set. So if you don't find it here on the core, you can type create and it will show up create component set. Click on that and we have our component. So let's rename it as button. Always make sure to put understandable. meaningful names to your elements as well. Okay, now I have button components and I have three states. You can see the states here. It has default, over, and inactive. You can rename this property to whatever the value you like. I'm going to call it a state because it has three states. Okay, now after you create that, I want this button to change its color to this one when users like hover over it. Let's say for an example, in order to if I go in here, if I add that button to the design that we did earlier, this one, so this design, okay, let's say I want to add this design to my button I created. What I can do is I can add the button right here. So in order to do that, I have to first go to my assets section where I have all my local components. Click on this local assets and you can see I have my button I already created in here. So I'm going to drag it and drop right here. So it is actually the larger in size because I created it in large size. So let's reduce the font size and make it much smaller. So I'm going to give it a font size of 24. Apply the same thing for other two states as well. Okay. And if I add the button right here, it will look like this. Let's reduce the size of our. Sorry, guys. All right. Now I have my button here. So if I go to my asset section, so I will do it again. So I already created this button asset, and then I'm going to my asset section and drag my button and drop it right here. So now I have my button in my design. So if I open this in my prototype, so you can access prototype by selecting this prototype element right here, prototype icon. And you can change the prototype. You can select the device that you like and then click on this play button. It will show you the prototype or the screens that you have selected, created. So this is one. So I want this to start my design. Show prototype settings. Let's put this button right here. Okay. Now if I play this one, the flow starting point, let's play it. You can see now it is when I'm hovering over it, it is not changing colors or anything. So in order to make it change in color, what we can do is we have to go to our component. So I'm going to drag it here so you can see it easier. And then in the prototype section, so you have to go to prototype tab, and when you click on this particular first button, you will get this kind of a plus icon right here on right hand side. So the next state I want it to be is mouse over state. So this one is the default state. This is the mouse over. So when someone hovering over it, when someone move their mouse over it, I want it to change to this particular design. And you can put any animation as well. So now let's play this one. So you can see it is changing the color and the direction. So that is how you can create a component with different states in your design. So what I want you to do is you can, I think some of you already created few buttons in design uh, files. So let's see. I saw one. Yeah, I want you to create components, button components by using the method that I told you, and add some animation as well by creating a prototype. So you can follow the recording. If you have any questions, if you won't get the final part of the video, let's see if it is still connected. Yeah. So if you have any questions regarding last part of the session, please send me a message so I will record it again and share it to you on Google Classroom. Is everything clear? Do you have any questions?
No, sir, all good.
Okay.
I
How
mean,
about,
I'm good.
all right, cool. How about Ratnarajan?
So I have
Yeah,
questions. When it's come to the user wise, the screen sometimes, for example, admin have see all the functions, but some users are not to see some function. On in order to that, when it's first we have to design the all the thing. After that, we connect with the screen type, or starting onwards, we have to separate them.
we have to separate them from the beginning actually. It will be easier. I'm sorry,
Okay.
what was your question again? I wasn't following up on
Uh,
you.
the they have a yeah, for example, we admin can see all the action in the application, but some users, uh, they have no rights to see all the action in the
Yeah,
for a application.
yeah.
So on that, the starting onwards, we have to separate screen for user wise, or once we catch the all the action particular application after completed, we have to separate them.
Yeah, so when you design application with different level of users, the first thing that you have to do is you have to create the super admin application, the person who have all the actions, all the like what it is called, all the authorization, and you can create the super admin application first. So after that, you can create other users. Let's say, for an example, we are developing application for a school. So the super admin can be the principal or someone, and teachers might have some access, but not full access. Then you can create the teachers UI by using the similar layout you created earlier and removing the parts that they don't have. Likewise, you can create other applications for students and so on as well. Is it clear?
Yes, it's it clear. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Any more questions? About Dinelka? Natara?
Everything is clear, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Samudi?
I'm good, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Narisha?
So just one thing I just put on the group chat as well. It seems like my file is locked. It says that verification required, and I'm supposed to register. Is that happening with everyone, or it's just
Verification required. Okay.
I have it too, sir.
This is education team file from. Okay. So I will move it to new board, or I will try to verify it from my end as well. Because this is education account I'm using for the classroom. Maybe I have to reach out the administrative staff. Okay, thank you for pointing it out. Any more questions? Ishamad? All right. Then let's meet next week. If you have any questions regarding today's session, please send a message on WhatsApp chat. All right. Have a nice day then. Bye-bye.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.